Alright, so initially I was going to do 2 separate Tomb Raider videos, one in which I talk about why I love the new movie, and the other being a speed art of me drawing Lara Croft, but then it struck me that I could do both at the same time, because then I could save some time that I could use on taking way too long naps after school, so here we are. I know that the movie was released over a month ago, but of course I had to begin on a huge drawing project for some reason, and it took quite a lot of time to finish, but I'm so happy to finally share my opinions with you all. Considering its rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, my expectations were fairly low, but you can probably tell by the title of this video that I was pleasantly surprised. So surprised in fact that I have now seen it several times and I don't think I would mind seeing it again. So without further ado, here is why I love Tomb Raider and oh, spoiler alert from this point and onwards. It's probably worth to mention right off the bat here that I feel like I am right in the middle of the target demographic and at the same time completely not at all. Allow me to explain. I have never played the Lara Croft games or the Tomb Raider games, and I'm not really familiar with the source material at all. I was more of a Nintendo DS type of player when I was younger, you know, and on computer it was more MMORPG types of games like RuneScape, and my parents weren't really familiar with anything gaming related, and the games kinda had to be free online games for the most part, so if I was to stumble upon it, it must have happened on my own, which it obviously didn't, unfortunately. It's kinda sad actually now that I think about it. I would really love to be part of the hype, but I feel like I can be a part of it now, right? However, I do feel like I'm the perfect viewer for this movie for the exact reason that I don't know anything about the franchise beyond the iconic name Lara Croft. You see, the biggest critics of a media is said media's biggest fans. Take the Star Wars fandom, for instance. Since I can honestly say that I didn't know shit about Tomb Raider, it made the movie a first-time experience for me. First time being introduced to Lara Croft's world, like the writers, directors, and actors wanted to tell it. And since I didn't have anything to compare it to, I was totally on board with all the changes, new elements, and the grounded, more realistic take on the legend of Lara Croft. Also, I sort of realized that to the fans of the franchise, I may come off as the casual fan who just embraces everything, even where it might step on the toes of the originals, and I totally get you. But it's simply not possible for me to be a diehard fan of every franchise there is. However, I'm planning to get the 2013 game soon, so, and to try the new game that's most likely coming later this year, so who knows, maybe after playing it I might not like the movie as much, maybe I'll be like, yeah, where is Sam, dammit? But, we'll see. If the movie was supposed to be a recreation of the games, I'd totally understand all of you, but, you know, Tomb Raider 2018 was never advertised as anything but a reboot, and, a reboot is apparently very different from the word remake. I found that on the internet and it was actually pretty exciting, so apparently those two terms are kind of different. Moving on. Casting. The thing that drew me to the movie from the get-go was the casting of Alicia Vikander. I know that had the opposite effect on some people, but oh well, that's not the case for me. Because when it was announced, I didn't really think twice about what type of movie it would be. All I knew was that I would totally watch it anyway because I absolutely love Alicia Vikander. My favorite Alicia movie so far has been Testament of Youth and The Danish Girl, and she's so talented and I had no doubts that she would put everything she had into the role. So basically I just kept saying to my friends that I was just so excited to see her on the big screen as a badass lead. It didn't really matter what movie it was, it would be fine. So I knew that even if the movie was mediocre, Alicia would totally shine and that I had to support the film, its Norwegian director, everybody, and our Swedish neighbor. So you can probably tell that I'm totally biased towards Alicia, but I feel like I can sort of justify it by referring to just how good she was at portraying Lara Croft in this movie. You know, because to me, Alicia has the ability to look fierce and badass, while she at the same time has this very human vulnerability to her. She's not overly confident, but she does believe in her own abilities and she simply survives. And she wins through using tricks and techniques that allows her to get the upper hand on opponents that should overpower her under normal circumstances. And yeah, she is kind of small, no denying that, and in a straight up fist fight with rules and regulations and stuff, the larger dude was probably going to win pretty much every time, and that's why they have weight classes in martial sports. But that's also why they don't do fights under normal circumstances in this movie. You know, it shows that she's pretty resourceful, and I think that's a great part of it. I've seen comments online about how she looks a bit small to be Lara, and that she's not pretty enough. And my initial thought to that was that she's fighting for her life the entire movie. Does she need to look like a supermodel while doing so? And my initial thought was that I don't agree at all, because hello, look at Alicia Vikander, everybody. Oh, yeah, that's just my personal opinion. Just as you all are entitled to yours. Because, you know, beauty is entirely subjective, and you can think everything you might want to think of Alicia Vikander, but personally, I think that judging a movie on the sole substance that you don't think someone's pretty enough or has, you know, big enough boobs, that's just being a straight up douche. I do get that the Lara in the games does look a certain way, and I know that changes their character traits is something you can dislike, but, you know, come on, it's not like that one little change affects the quality of the movie whatsoever, and I think that, you know, personal attacks and such way of criticizing a movie is just kind of pathetic, honestly, in my opinion. The people simply invalidates all the hard work she put into this movie, you know, all the time and effort by dismissing her as not pretty enough for the role. That makes me pretty angry, so. In addition to the acting in this movie, I really love the action pieces, and I love the directing of the bicycle race in particular. The other one I really liked was the Hong Kong chase and the fight between Lara and Vogel in the tomb. When I look at the behind the scenes, I like it even more because Alicia did most of her own stunts herself, which I loved. And I thought the battle scenes had this grittiness to them, especially on the island, and I liked all the angles and stuff they went with. Even if it wasn't something super crazy, I liked it a lot. And the opening martial art fights was really cool as well. It started the movie on an action-packed high note, which I totally loved. Plot twist. I also thought the plot twist was pretty cool, like, because I didn't see it coming at all, which I kind of love about plot twists, with, you know, Hamiko being a savior and willingly sacrificing herself. I thought that was pretty cool. As I said, I don't know anything about the original story. I looked into it, and she's like the sun god or something, and that's pretty different from what the movie did. But I thought that the plot twist the movie went with was pretty cool in the, when you look at the movie as a whole, and I was actually really surprised. Maybe I'm just stupid, but, you know, who knows, right? The ending was pretty cool as well, with Anna being all shady and stuff. I don't remember if it's Anna or Anna, but, you know, don't sue me. I actually thought that she looked quite a lot like Dorothy Walker, Trish Walker's mother from Jessica Jones, and that's probably why I suspected her for being shady somehow from the start, because I was like, yeah, you're that type of person, right? Also, there's no love story in this movie, except for the love through newfound friendships, like Lou, Ren, and Lara, and the love between Lara and her father, and Lara's father's love for the world. Also bringing up Lou Ren, I wonder what happened to him after they got home, because I kind of hope him and Lara are keeping in touch. And I feel like their relationship happened very organically, and I like that they didn't go any further with romantic storylines in this movie. Alright, so for this part, I'm going to address some of the criticism the movie got, and why I agree with some things and why I don't agree with other things. Too much origin, not enough tomb raiding. Personally, I'm a sucker for origin stories, and I love to see how a movie or series choose to build up their characters and how they get them from A to B. I absolutely love the entire setup, from the very first scene in the boxing ring and especially the bicycle race. The race really showed us what type of person Lara is, and the boxing scene was repeatedly brought up again in the movie, when she managed to break free of the chokehold she couldn't get out of in the beginning. And obviously, not everyone agrees with me because this criticism does come from somewhere, but I think it would have been pretty weird for her to go around and just open tombs all the time, because there's not a lot of tombs anywhere, really. And they have to build up a story that makes sense for her to go tomb raiding at all. It would be natural to have the climax of the movie to be the actual tomb raiding, which it was, so I don't really see how it would have made sense to have it any sooner. Maybe they could have done more puzzle solving and mystery solving. I really like the clock idea that they went with to find the coordinates. Maybe more stuff like that. Not necessarily explicit tomb raiding, but just things that would show us how smart and resourceful Lara is, to a greater degree. This movie feels too much like a video game, with sequences you have to overcome. I'm not really gonna say too much about this part, save for I'm really complaining about a movie based on a video game to feel too much like a video game, because I don't get what people want. Do you want grounded realism or crazy video game elements, guys? Just make up your minds. I'm really up for anything, really, so. The color palette is flat and boring. This is valid criticism, and it is sort of true. It's not really creative, but the thing is, it's not supposed to be creative, and I think that's why it fits perfectly in this movie. It's a movie about survival, and survival isn't really pretty. If the island looked like the fairy tale, it would, you know, at least for me, it would drag me out of the movie, and I think that the contrast would be too big between the beautiful elements and the dark, gritty survival elements, because you're not supposed to be like, oh, this island is so pretty, wish I could go, to, damn, Lara's getting killed in that beautiful puddle of dirt. You could also argue the other way, though, that it shows the contrast between life and death, and that if the island was prettier, you would get the sense about how great life is and how ugly death is in comparison. But again, yeah, that's totally up to personal preference. I realize that liking a movie or not is entirely up to you, so we might disagree with everything I say in this video, who knows, right? Lara is invincible. Yeah, this movie does stretch your disbelief, and it did pull me out of the movie a couple of times that I can remember. Like when she fell through all the trees and she certainly should have broken a bone or 2 or 5. I remember thinking, oh, she just fell who knows how fast into who knows how many trees, and her biggest pain is a little branch in her side. Should have been at least a dozen of those, I tell ya, or like a huge branch of the entire tree, you know? It's probably also pretty hard to climb after being stabbed too, and not to mention swim with a heavy backpack in the storm. I can barely carry myself, and that's just in the normal swimming pool with a bikini on, right? So how would you swim with a heavy backpack and your clothes in the storm? You know? Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe I'm just really bad at swimming, but I was like, yeah, this is pretty weird. Some of the action scenes could definitely be more realistic, and my favorites were those where we saw Lara using environment in an organic way to get the upper hand, and the close-up realistic hand-to-hand fights. There's really not that much of any consequences in this movie either, because Lara survives quite a lot of things and she just brushes it off. I mean, I'm certainly no Lara Croft, but I know that I would prefer to lay down for weeks if I came anywhere close to what she went through. Also, the characters are pretty static for the most part, and we don't see a lot of change in them, in any of them really, throughout the movie. Take Lara herself, for instance. She fights in her spare time, and she loves adrenaline, and that's pretty evident from the bicycle race, and by the end of the movie she wants to fight. She was always brave. Maybe if we saw her doubt herself in the beginning, that perception of the character would go away, but that wasn't really the case. Alright, so I do get that this movie isn't entirely perfect and it's not the best action movie ever made, but for me personally, I ended up loving it and it was very entertained throughout the entire film, which is what movies are supposed to do, right? And I'm really hoping that they greenlight the sequel soon, and with the new Shadow of the Tomb Raider game coming as well, the timing couldn't really be more perfect. So what did you think of Tomb Raider? Were you pleasantly surprised with a video game movie that wasn't a complete mess? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you ever see this video for some reason, Alicia, just know that jeg synes det var dritbra og helt rå, og at du fortjener virkelig å vise deg frem som Lara Croft flere ganger. Also, massiv tusen takk to Roar Uthaug, the director of this movie, for personally delivering a Tomb Raider poster to me via my local cinema so I could go pick it up when I thought I couldn't love the movie anymore. So, tusen takk. Last also now, I hope you enjoyed this type of video. I might do more of these in the future. Who knows? Check out the full drawing, a link will be in the description too if you want to share it, and as always, thank you so much for leaving a like and a comment, it means so much to me and to this channel. Have a great day everybody, and I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye!